Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopidana Ballabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Gopidana Ballabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Gopidana Ballabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Braja Dhanaranjana Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Braja Dhanaranjana Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Kopidana Balaba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Kopidana Balaba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Gopidana Balaba Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Yasodanandana Rajadanarandana Jaya Rajadanarandana Yasodanandana Rajadanarandana Jaya Rajadanarandana Yamunadiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamunadiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Purvadakshari Asadhara Sudhu Shri Shriman is Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Smaharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Zabrani Bhakta Slava Shri Guru Shri Gurangi Namo Vishnu Padaya Om Agyanam Tamanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanshena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudha Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Druvyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevascha Patiranam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 10, the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, and text 1 doesn't have any purport, so we'll just read. Shukadeva Goswami said the son of Maharaj Kadvanga was Dirga Bahu, and his son was the celebrated Maharaj Raghu. From Maharaj Raghu came Aj, and from Aj was born the great personality Maharaj Dasarath. Tasyapi Bhagavan Esha Sakshad Brahmana Yo Hari Angsham Sena Chaturdagat Putratvam Pratita Surai Rama Lakshmana Bharata Shatrugna Iti Samgaya Tasyapi Bhagavanesha Sakshad Brahma Mamo Hari Amsham Sena Chaturdaga Putratvam Prartitas Surai Nama Lakshmana Bharata Shatrugna Iti Samgyaya Tadyapi Bhagavanesha Sakshad Brahma Mayo Hari Angsham Sena Chaturagaga Putratvam Pratitaksharai Ramana Lakshmana Bharata Shatrugna Iti Samgaya Syapi Bhagavanesha Sakshad Brahma Mayo Hari Amsham Sena Chaturagagat Putratvam Pratitaksharai Rama Lakshmana Bharata Shatrugna Iti Samgaya. Ladies. Tasyapi Bhagavanesha Yo Hari Amsham Sena Chaturagagat Putratvam Pratitaksharai Rama Lakshmana Bharata Shatrugna iti samgaya Tasyapi Bhagavanesha Prakshad Brahmamayo Hari Amsham Sena Chaturadagat Putratvam Pratitaksarai Rama Lakshmana Bharata Shatrugna iti samgaya Tasya of him Maharaj Dasharat Api also Bhagavan the Supreme Personality of Godhead Aisha all of them Sakshat directly Brahmamaya the Supreme Brahman, the Absolute Truth. Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Angsha Amusena, by an expansion of a plenary portion. Chaturda, by fourfold expansions. Agat, accepted. Putratvam, sonhood. Prartitaha, being prayed for. Surai, by the demigods. Rama, Lord Ramachandra. Lakshmana, Lord Lakshmana. Bharata, Lord Bharata. Shatrugna, and Lord Shatrugna. Iti, thus, Samgaya, by different names. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Having prayed for by the demigods, being prayed for by the demigods, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth Himself, directly appeared with His expansion and expansions of the expansion. The holy names were Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrugna. These celebrated incarnations thus appeared in four forms as the son of Maharaj Dasharat. Purport. Lord Ramachandra and his brothers Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrugna are all Vishnu Tattva, not Jiva Tattva. Supreme Personality of Godhead expands into many, many forms. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam. Although they are one and the same, Vishnu Tattva has many forms and incarnations, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 539, Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtan. The Lord is situated in many forms such as Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrugna, and these forms may exist in any part of His creation. All these forms exist permanently, eternally, as individual personalities of Godhead, and they resemble many candles, all equally powerful. Lord Ramachandra, Lakshmana, Bharata, and Shatrugna, who being Vishnu Tattva, are all equally powerful, became the sons of Maharaj Dasharat in their response to prayers by the demigods. Text 3. O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramachandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth. Because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramachandra, a husband of Mother Sita, I shall describe these activities only in brief. Please listen. So even the time 5,000 years ago, there were many Ramayans circulating. Everyone knew the story of Lord Ram and Lakshman and Hanuman and Sita. And so there was no need to tell the story again. So we won't tell the story again here either. Unless it's Lord Ramachandra's appearance day, then we usually tell something of the story. Who's ever read the Ramayana? You never read the Ramayana? What's that? Oh, okay. Do you know who Lord Ramachandra is? Who Hanuman is? Who Lakshman is? Who Ravan is? So you've heard the Ramayana before. Have you ever heard the Ramayana before? Have you heard the Ramayana before? More or less, a little bit here and there. Everyone hears it. Even if you go to Thailand, all the temples there, have you ever been to Thailand? In the temples in Thailand, all the pictures are of Ram and fighting with the demons there, even the Buddhist temples. Little slightly different understanding who Lord Ramachandra is, obviously, but Lord Ramachandra is quite popular, especially in Asia. O King Parikshit, the transcendental activities of Lord Ramachandra have been described by great saintly persons who have seen the truth. Because you have heard again and again about Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Mother Sita, I shall describe these activities only in brief. Please listen. Purport. Modern Rakshasas, posing as educationally advanced merely because they have doctorates, have tried to prove that Lord Ramachandra is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but an ordinary person. But those who are learned and spiritually advanced, will never accept such notions. They will accept the descriptions of Lord Ramachandra and his activities only as presented by Tattva-darshis, those who know the absolute truth. Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, advises, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva-darshanaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Unless one is tattva-darshi, in complete knowledge of the absolute truth, one cannot describe the activities of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, although there are many so-called Ramayanas, or histories of Lord Ramachandra's activities, some of them are not actually authoritative. Sometimes Lord Ramachandra's activities are described in terms of one's own imagination, speculations, or material sentiments. But the characteristics of Lord Ramachandra should not be handled as something imaginary. While describing the history of Lord Ramachandra, Shukadeva Goswami told Parikshit Maharaj, you have already heard about the activities of Lord Ramachandra. Apparently, therefore, 5,000 years ago, there were many Ramayanas. Apparently, or histories of Lord Ramachandra activities. And there are still many, but we must select only those books written by Tattva-darshis, Jnaninas Tattva-darshanaha. Not the books of so-called scholars who claim knowledge only on the basis of a doctorate. This is a warning by Shukadeva Goswami, Rishivir Tattva-darshibhi. Although the Ramayana composed by Valmiki is a huge literature, the same activities are summarized here by Shukadeva Goswami in a few verses. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Tenamane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyadyate Siddharane. Shukadeva Goswami explaining about the ancestry of Lord Krishna going all the way back to Treta Yuga, where Lord Ramachandra appeared. So now we're entering the part of Bhagavatam which will deal with a lot of activities and pastimes. One sense to show that the material world is not a very good place. Even in the higher planetary systems, even when it lives in Treta Yuga, or in Satya Yuga, or in Indraloka, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punavartanojana, Mamu Peti Tu Konteya Punarjanman Navidite. From the highest planet down to the lowest, they're all places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. The one who attains Mayabodha, son of Kunti, never takes birth again. In other words, we may be hearing Krishna's 10th canto, but at the same time maintain a desire that let's stop off in Indraloka, go to the Nanda Kandana forest and have a good time for a while, and then I'm on our way back to Godhead, of course. So we may be attracted by the flowery language of the Vedas, which have as reward for certain activities, long life, unlimited, practically material sense gratification and abundance, great personal beauty and influence, etc., etc. Everything that everyone materialist desires can be had on the heavenly planets in many times than we can find it here. Therefore, Bhagavatam is trying to explain everything, but explaining everything in a way that we may become attracted to fix our minds upon Krishna, only Krishna, not having a hidden desire or even an overt desire that may we go and enjoy somewhere else in better circumstances. Just like even on this planet, some people, they think if I can get a green card, at least they used to think like that. If I get a green card and I can go to America, then maybe I would have some advancement in my material life. And indeed, they go to America, and in some respects, they get some advancement, so-called advancement in the material life. And then their kids turn out to be drug addicts and juvenile delinquents, and they're quite disappointed in their so-called advancement. But everyone is looking for something that some place in this material world one can go to and become happy ever after. As in all the movies, they're always happy ever after. There is one commercial for some water, and it shows a cowboy riding on his horse, and he hears this lady screaming, "Help, help, help." He goes to see who it is. And this lady is she's over a cliff, hanging on a tree, and she needs help. She's quite an attractive lady, and she winks at him. And then he goes back to his horse to get the rope to save her, and then he takes a bottle of water. He takes some water before he saves her. And then suddenly he gets enlightened. The water clears his mind. And then he sees himself some years later in a house. This girl's mother walks in with white hair and curls throughout, these pin curls throughout her hair. And he's on the sofa with a little baby, giving the baby some milk or something. And he gets enlightened. And so he puts his rope back on the horse, gets back on the horse, and rides away. Just by drinking a little water. So we don't believe, it'd have to be very ironized water in order to get to that realization. Generally speaking, we have to read the Bhagavatam to understand things more clearly, not just by drinking some water. But Lord Ramachandra, although he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he goes through so many tribulations. Even his life is not very comfortable in some respects. In any case, if we read the right Ramayana, then we'll discover that. There are many other Ramayans which were much more sentimental than Valmiki's. Valmiki's, Lord Ramachandra's banished into the forest. His wife, he gets his wife, she gets kidnapped. She goes with him to the forest, she's kidnapped. She lives with Ravana for some time in the same palace as Ravana. Lord Ramachandra comes with a monkey army. There's a big war, so many soldiers are killed. Finally, Sita's saved, and then she's made to enter into fire. She gets out. She passed the test. She lives with Ramachandra for some time, performs sacrifices. Some man is claiming that Sita was possibly unchaste. Lord Ramachandra banishes her into the forest when she's pregnant. She gives birth to Lava and Kusha. Then Lord Ramachandra goes back to the forest, gets Sita. Sita enters in Mother Earth, comes and takes Sita back into the earth. It's not happily ever after story. What happened? I thought it was supposed to be romantic or something. She enters back into the earth. In any case, that Ramayana has certain lessons in it to show us detachment. Lord Ramachandra has one wife. He's a servant of his kingdom. Even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to protect his one wife, although he can make unlimited wives, he goes and destroys a whole dynasty of Rakshasas, and still he performs sacrifices for so many years, and in order to protect the reputation of the king, he vanishes his own wife when she's pregnant, and when she comes back, she decides just, I've had enough of this, and goes back into the earth. Can't trust anyone nowadays, even his God. So this is called tattvadarshi. They can actually see these things as the pastimes are actually taking place. No one can imitate this. And because they see these things, they're actually eternally true. They're eternally being manifested. And when we hear these explanations from those personalities, then we can actually have association with Lord Ramachandra and with the whole pastime. And if we hear from mental speculators, then the result is that we'll simply mentally speculate also. And although we may remember Lord Ramachandra, but Lord Ramachandra will not appear in such artificially composed pastimes. No one can create pastimes for Lord Ramachandra. He has his own pastimes. Not that some mental speculator is going to come and create some pastimes for him. That's just not possible. So therefore, one has to be careful to hear from the authoritative source, who's actually, as Elise has heard from another source, who is actually experiencing the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra or any other pastimes of an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. No, that's not the correct pastime. That's not the correct pastime. There was I forget her name. There was a incarnation of the earth. Well, I forget who she was. Vedavati was her name. She was performing austerities to get the Supreme Lord Vishnu as her husband. And while she was in the Himalayas, and while Ravana was passing in his airplane, then he saw this beautiful lady, Vedavati, and he desired her. So he came down with his airplane, and as he usually did, he usually kidnap these ladies, and so he came and tried to kidnap Vedavati by grabbing her hair. But she was so disturbed by Ravana's touching her hair, even touching her, that with her hand she cut off her hair that Ravana had, and she set herself on fire by her mystic yoga power. And she said, I'm going to be born again, I'll be the cause of your destruction and the destruction of your dynasty. So, when Sita was in the forest with Lord Ramachandra, then Lord Ramachandra had drew this mystic circle around so that no one could enter. And of course, Ravana tricked Sita into disguising himself as a mendicant. But when Ravana was about to take Sita, then Agni came and took the real Sita away and replaced her with Vedavati. So actually Vedavati was the one that Ravana has kidnapped. And indeed she was the cause of the destruction of the dynasty of Ravana. And when Lord Ramachandra vanquished the Ravana, then he came and he took back Sita, who was actually Vedavati. So then he said that Sita had to enter into fire, so that in order to prove her chastity. So Vedavati entered into the fire, and Lord Agni took her away and brought back the real Sita, and so she came out of the fire. Anything else? Yes. Well, if you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you rule the kingdom, you should probably have some...
We are not in our position.
Probably it's useless to care.
So we should not care what others.
Generally speaking, why do we care? Now, if someone says we murdered someone and they go to the police, we should probably try and protect our reputation. But generally speaking, most of the things are pretty insignificant, what people say. They're just emotional outbursts from there that no one takes seriously. It's called Gramya Katha. Village talk. Useless village talk. Can you remember all the insults someone told you about 3 years ago? So you won't probably remember all the insults someone will tell you today, 3 years from now either.
No, but like this, people speak and they can create a bad reputation for someone.
Yeah, so we have to, Krishna has a little bit concern with his reputation, because when Satyajit said that Krishna had taken the Samataka jewel, maybe he killed his brother, Prasena. Then Krishna cared enough to go into the forest and found the Prasena had been killed. His horse had been killed by a lion. He found the dead lion and he traced it back to the cave of Jambavan and fought with Jambavan for 28 days in order to get the Shamataka jewel back. But we're not God. We're not going to do that. But somehow or another, what can you do? I mean, just like someone put something on the internet, you're going to try to follow every single person who received the message and give your side of the story. So to a greater degree we have to tolerate. Besides that, Kali Yuga people have no memories, so whatever they heard about someone today, they're going to forget tomorrow anyhow. Anything else? Wala. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande.